I have to imagine that this season isn't going the way Tom Brady had hoped. He had retired. I mean, it was over until it wasn't.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
Brady retired in the offseason, but changed his mind to return to the Buccaneers, and the reality is, Tampa Bay doesn't look like a team capable of winning Brady his 8th Super Bowl before he hangs them up. Brady is the GOAT, but this is unfortunately what the end of his legacy looks like. It's no secret that there's a lot more going on with Tom Brady than just what's on the football field. He has reportedly started the process of getting a divorce with his wife Giselle. We all kind of know that Giselle has wanted Brady to step away from football for a while now, and it seems like his obsession with the sport has basically ended his marriage. She wanted him to retire and be more of a family man. And it seemed like that was finally going to be the case. I mean, Brady did literally retire, but then, like I said, he decided to come out of retirement. Brady just loves the game. He recently said on a podcast with Kevin Durant that he's kind of struggled balancing work and life, and that he always ends up buried in work. He apparently views the season like a military deployment, like he's going away. Brady talked about his competitiveness and how once it gets to that time of year, all he really cares about is wins and losses and how he can get it done on the field. Here's the real question though. Is Tom Brady really done after this season? Will he finally retire? Tom Brady did obviously retire after last season, but then changed his mind pretty fast. Clearly, his decision to come back rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, like Giselle. Even with the divorce, I have to imagine that this is still definitely the last run for Brady. Every report and indication makes it seem like this is the end for the greatest player in the sport. The crazy thing is, Tom Brady has still been pretty damn good this year. He has over 1,600 yards and 8 touchdowns to only 1 pick. He's completing 67.2% of his passes. Brady is not the issue here, but the offense is still a mess. Mike Evans is still the number 1. He has over 350 yards, and Chris Godwin has 250 yards. Leonard Fournette has really been the driving force on that offense though. He has 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards rushing, and over 200 yards through the air. The Bucs offense just hasn't been great. It's only scored 121 points in 6 games, second to last in the NFC South by quite a lot. The biggest issue, I would say, is the offensive line. I mean, it's bad. Tampa Bay lost both starting guards, Alex Kappa and Ali Marpet in free agency. Ryan Jensen was the big injury that hurt them. He was the starting center and went down with a knee injury, but should be back maybe in like late November. The defense has been much better than the offense. It's only giving up 17.2 points per game and has been pretty solid. Remember, the Buccaneers are kind of in a weird spot with a new, but not really new head coach. Bruce Arians was the head coach, and he decided to take on a different role as an executive, and it led to Todd Bowles, who was the defensive coordinator, to take over the head coaching position. So the Bucs do look like a very different team than even last season, let alone that Super Bowl team. Last year, me and Jackson went to the Tampa Bay Washington game, and the Bucs lost, and that was a game that they definitely should have won. Well, this season's Washington game was in week 6, a 20-18 loss to the Steelers. It was a weird game because Kenny Pickett actually started but ended up getting hurt, and Mitch Trubisky played the rest of the way. And it's not like Pittsburgh played great either. The offense was fine, and the defense couldn't force a Bucs turnover. It was just one of those games. Tampa Bay went 4 of 14 on 3rd down and just kept coming up short when it mattered, and they fell to 3-3 because of it, falling back to 500, what the Bucs were after dropping back-to-back games in week 3 and 4. The Buccaneers lost to the Packers in week 3, a big battle between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, and it ended up being kind of boring. It was a defensive affair. Tampa Bay trailed 14-3 at half and lost 14-12. The Bucs were just 2 of 11 on 3rd down and lost 2 fumbles. It wasn't pretty. The offense recovered and looked much better the next week, but the defense got absolutely cooked by Patrick Mahomes, and Kansas City won 41-31. The funny thing is that the Buccaneers actually started the year 2-0. Tampa Bay visited Dallas for the Sunday night game in week 1, and the Cowboys' offense was pretty much non-existent. Dallas scored 3 points, and the Bucs went on to win 19-3. The next week was against the Saints, a team that Brady had actually never beaten in the regular season since going to Tampa Bay. He finally got over the hump, and the Bucs won 20-10. Their most recent victory quite possibly shouldn't have even been a victory. The Buccaneers were up 21-0 heading into the fourth quarter before Atlanta rattled off 15 straight points, and the Falcons did stop Brady on a key third down until a wild roughing the passer penalty was called. Even with the Bucs struggling to start the season, somehow they're tied for first in the NFC South. Not only that, but Tampa Bay is tied with the Falcons, who many expected to be one of the worst teams in the league. The Saints and Panthers both have losing records. Despite a down start to the year, the Buccaneers, even if they do continue to struggle to some degree, should have no issue winning the division. It mirrors all those years when the Patriots dominated the AFC East, because the reality was the other 3 teams in the division just weren't any good. And that's the case now in the NFC South. I don't think many people look at Atlanta and actually think that's a good football team, and the Saints are confusing and maybe could end up being decent if Jameis Winston comes back and balls out. Carolina is just straight up going to get the first overall pick at this point. The Panthers are going to trade away all their assets, and they have already fired their head coach. Basically, the Bucs should be in the playoffs. It'd be an absolute shock if they weren't. Tampa Bay may not be as good as the best teams in the NFC, but they're surely better than the teams in their division. That'll help them make the postseason. But at least right now, it's hard to imagine that this Bucs team is going to be able to compete with some of the best the league has to offer. Lucky for Brady, most of the star power is over in the AFC. But don't get me wrong, the NFC still definitely has a few really good teams too. Then again, we are talking about Tom Brady in the playoffs. If anyone can cook up some last-minute magic before calling it a career, I wouldn't be surprised one bit if it were Brady. I think one of the most interesting questions now is what the Buccaneers do once Tom Brady does decide to retire. It's not like there's a plan at quarterback there. Blaine Gabbert is the backup, and I surely hope he isn't going to be the next starter. The Bucs did draft Kyle Trask a few years back, but the fact that he's still the third string tells you all you probably need to know about that. Tampa Bay isn't going to be bad enough to get a high pick at the draft, so when Brady does decide to hang it up, if he does this offseason, the Bucs are going to have a big problem. There are a handful of interesting options that may be the next quarterback of the Buccaneers. I mean, Daniel Jones has been okay this year, and he's going to be a free agent. Jimmy Garoppolo could come in and take over for Tom Brady to make Bill Belichick's wet dream finally come true. And then you have guys like Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, or Teddy Bridgewater, who you surely probably don't want. It's going to be difficult for the Bucs to get a top quarterback at the draft, but if Tampa Bay can take the right guy and put him behind a very good football team, maybe the Buccaneers won't be too bad off post Tom Brady.